Hello everyone. This is a part of the presentation made on the topic IPv6, that is Internet Protocol version 6. In part 1 of the presentation, we covered an introduction to IPv6 and then we discussed the major features of Internet Protocol version 6. Then we just started our discussion on the header structure, particularly the main header of a typical IPv6 protocol. So we are continuing our discussion from that point. So I already told you, please refer this RFC 2460 for detailed explanation on IPv6 header. You can download this documentation. Now this is how the typical header is looking, and here we have the 4-bit version field and the default value is 1 0 1 1 0 and the priority, and that is nothing but the type of service field of IPv4, and flow labor, which is a 20-bit field, we will see in detail. The payload length, 16 bits field, same thing is available in IPv4 also, and this next header field is nothing but the protocol field in a typical IPv4 network, and hop limit is equivalent to the time to leave field in IPv4. And then we have the source address on 28 bits or 16 bytes, destination address 16 bytes, and then extension headers. So we calculated like the fixed header, that is a main header of IPv6 is of size 40 byte, that is fixed, and mandatory in any IPv6 packet, followed by the option which are represented by the extension headers. So you can add the extension headers like extension header 1, 2, 3, depending on how many options you want to represent. Then we will see each field in detail, starting with the field version and traffic class. I already told you, version is a 4-bit field, indicates the version of the internet protocol, and we know as of now we have only IPv6, so just represent that 6 in binary 0110 in that field. That is only why. And I told you why this field is needed, because by looking at this field only the intermediate routers are understanding whether it is a IPv4 packet or v6 packet or say if some other version is coming in the future, that one. So that is something needed just to identify the current version of the IP protocol. Then traffic class, that is equivalent to the type of service field in a typical IPv4 network. So the traffic class field indicates a class or the priority of IPv6 packet which is similar to the type of service field in IPv4 packet. So that is mainly identifying the priority or in which traffic class it belongs to. So it helps the routers to handle the traffic based on the priority of the packet. Then if congestion occurs, so you know what is congestion, right? The traffic in the network is suddenly increasing, and that time the packets with the least priority will be discarded. So this field is going to help you for discarding the packet with the least priority whenever there is a congestion. Now as of now, only 4 bits are being used. We already seen that. See, it's a 8-bit field, right? Out of that 8-bit, 4 bits are used currently, and the remaining bits are reserved under research, or it is reserved for future. It may be given a different meaning in the future. So what does it 4 bits indicates? Like in which, you know, using 4 bits, how many combinations are possible? Using 4 bits, you can come up with 2 raised to 4, that is equal to 16 combination, and you can represent it like 0 to 15. Okay, out of this 0 to 15, you are dividing it like 0 to 7. The first half is for one purpose, and the remaining addresses, that is from 8 to 15, are for different purpose. So as of now, only 4 bits are being used, and the remaining bits are under research, in which 0 to 7, okay, that is the first half, are assigned to something called congestion controlled traffic. And the second half, that is 8 to 15, are assigned to something called uncontrolled traffic. Now what is this congestion controlled traffic? This is for understanding it more, you have to know the transport layer protocol, that is TCP and UDP. Simply right now you can understand like this: the traffic that is generated by TCP is mainly coming under the category congestion controlled traffic from the transport layer point of view, I am saying. And if you are looking at an UDP protocol, all the traffic generated by UDP are typically uncontrolled traffic. So that in the last module we will see how this TCP is working. And if, for the time being, you can understand that TCP is a reliable protocol. And you know what is reliability, right? Where UDP is unreliable. So how it is achieving the reliability? Because it is always providing some guarantees. Like if you are sending some information, definitely it will be delivered. That guarantee is provided by TCP. Some way it will try to ensure it, okay, but no such guarantee in case of UDP. So now if you are looking at the traffic that is generated by certain application like FTP protocol, file transfer protocol, for transferring some file information, or if you are looking at say HTTP, hypertext transfer protocol, say mail, SMTP, simple mail transfer protocol, all these protocols are making use of TCP because we need this reliability in all these cases. Okay, that means whatever thing, if suppose you are sending a file, you want that file to be received at the receiver. Even though it is taking some delay, you are that is okay, but I want to deliver it at the receiver. Similarly, the web application SMTP, okay. But then what about the UDP protocol? If you don't need such things, anyway, we will see this in detail in the subsequent parts. But right now you understand, like if you are looking at a multimedia application, okay, a multimedia, say audios, video streaming kind of thing. And see, in that case, suppose you know how you are sending a video file. You will be sending a video file by sequence of frames, right? A collection of frames together is making that video. Now even if a particular frame is missing on the way, what you can do is you can recover that frame at the receiver with the help of the neighboring frames. Such a facility is there. But on the other side, suppose you are sending a file, certain characters are missing, then how you are going to retrieve it? Because those characters which are missed, there will not be any relation with the others. Okay. So because of such a thing, that means if you are looking at any audio video streaming kind of application, we need availability, or we need to deliver that information faster. We don't want any delay, but at the same time we are ready to compromise on loss of data. Even though some information is getting lost at the receiver, it can be recovered, but here it is not that. So whenever an application want that reliability, go for TCP. Now how this TCP is achieving this reliability or ensuring that guarantee? It is by a mechanism called retransmission. That means, suppose on the way the networks, if the networks are getting congested, definitely they are going to drop the packet, right? So now even though the intermediate routers are dropping the packet, what TCP will do is, TCP will retransmit it. So suppose again it is getting dropped, again it will be retransmitted. So like that it will do that retransmission, and it will try to ensure the correct delivery of your data. But there is no such retransmission overhead if you are looking at the UDP protocol. Now, why it is called congestion controlled traffic? That means whenever there is congestion, there will be packet losses. But TCP is able to control the congestion. One thing, even though in congestion it is not getting much affected, like by retransmission and all, it will ensure the reliability. And another one, it is having inbuilt mechanism for controlling the congestion. Okay, and that we will see in detail when we are discussing TCP. We have protocols like some concept of advertisement window. That means the receiver can advertise how much data it can taken care, and also we have another concept called congestion window. That is window means how much information you are going to send at any time. So by looking at the congestion window, if that congestion window is saying that don't send a huge amount of data, accordingly you will reduce your traffic. So there is some inbuilt mechanism by which TCP is able to control the congestion, and the details we will see later. And that is why we call the TCP traffic as congestion controlled traffic. Okay, but there is no such congestion control algorithm in case of UDP, and it is a purely uncontrolled traffic. That means from the sender point of view, there is no guarantee. If there is congestion without any control, you will simply send the data, and on the way data will be getting dropped. Now even though the data is dropped, you are not going to do any retransition also. Now tell me whether you have to give importance to TCP or UDP. Now if you are looking at the typical IPv4 network, they are giving some importance to TCP only. In different means. If you see this protocol in detail, you will understand. The protocol itself is having a lot of speciality like retransition, congestion control, everything. And also if you are looking at the intermediate routers, suppose your the router is getting a TCP packet and a UDP packet, what the router will be doing? Router will try to send the TCP and it will drop the UDP packet if there is congestion. Why it is giving more priority to TCP? Because if the router is going to discard your packet, what you will do? You will retransmit again. So that will be a disturbance for the router, right? Nothing like that. Again and again you will do retransition. To avoid that overhead, whenever there is congestion and if you are forced to discard certain packet, it will always try not to discard a TCP. And if there is TCP and UDP, it will compromise with UDP. So that is our current scenario. But if you are doing like that, that is going to affect the multimedia traffic. Already they are not having any inbuilt mechanism. They are unreliable. There is no retransmission. And still there is no retransmission. It is unreliable. Okay, and you are not going to give any priority also. So that is not a correct situation, because when people designed IPv4, that time they thought like it is better to give priority to TCP, because it is overall that is designed for a good purpose. But when you are doing like that, the UDP data, already that protocol is not providing any reliability, retransition, nothing, and on the way the intermediate routers are not taking care of such packets. So totally are going to compromise the multimedia data. That should not happen. So as of now we are focusing more on multimedia. And if you are looking at the internet traffic, most of the traffic is covered by multimedia. Okay, and you know how it is important for the current scenario. So in such a situation, try to give some more attention to UDP or controlled traffic in general. Okay, now that is what this IPv6 is trying to implement. So you have to remember one thing, this using 4 bits you can have a combination from 0 to 15, and always higher number is given higher priority. That means I am saying that a particular traffic is of priority 15 and another traffic is of priority 10, then the one with the number 15 will be given higher priority. That means the priority is in this order. Okay, it can be interpreted differently also. That is why I am making it clear. If you are looking at IPv6, the priority is given like this. And now this is the lower priority traffic, right? And this is a higher priority traffic. So higher priority traffic, that is 8 to 15, is nothing but our uncontrolled traffic, and the lower priority traffic, that is 0 to 7, is nothing but the congestion controlled traffic, or you can simply say that TCP traffic. So this is the this is a very important concept that is there in IPv6. You have to take in care. Okay, and accordingly, if you are looking at the traffic class, the priority assignment for a congestion control traffic is like this. We already seen the lower priority class, the first half of the priority class, that is 0 to 7, is given for congestion controlled traffic. And out of them, if you want, you can see see more details about it. I am just listing out only. The 0 is for say no specific traffic, and 1 is something that is running on the background. Whenever a client and a server or two processes are communicating, those which are running on the background, not in the foreground, are given the next priority class. Now priority 2 is for unattended data traffic. That means the receiver is not there to attend the traffic. From the sender side, it keep on sending the information. But if you look at the receiver side may not be active. For example, this email traffic you can think of. Even though you are sending, there is no guarantee that the receiver of the email is going to check your mail immediately, right? So that is an example for unattended data traffic, and this is something that is reserved for future. See, if you look at IP v6, there are many fields which are reserved, and you will be surprised why people are keeping some bits and it is simply reserved and there is no meaning defined. It is a very good thing, because in the future we don't know our requirement. Accordingly, if a new traffic class is coming, let it be sit at this place. So this is how they are making the reservation. So reservation, it is not a meaningless concept. Actually, whenever some feature is updated in the future, this reservation field can be made use of achieving it. Okay. Now this class is unattended bulk data traffic. This one is unattended data traffic. This is attended and bulk traffic. Then that means both the sender and receiver are active at the same time. Interactive traffic, right? Say telnet, using telnet or remote login. You are accessing a remote machine interactively. So for such application, because both, it is not a kind of attended bulk traffic. Here there is nothing like a bulky data. Data is normal kind of transfer only, but interactive. Both the sender and receiver are simultaneously looking at the data. Then control traffic, there may be some router update information, or there can be some SNMP, and it's a Symbol Network Management Protocol. So that is taken care of entire network. So it is passing some kind of control information, or it may be a routing update. So all those control traffic are given higher priority within this set. Okay. So so here we assume all are coming under the congestion controlled traffic. Now what about the remaining priority, that is 8 to 15, that is given for the uncontrolled traffic. So uncontrolled data traffic is mainly used for and that is what I already told you, audio video streaming. And IPv6 gives higher priority to uncontrolled data. So that is what I explained in the previous slide, why it is given higher priority. Hope it is clear. So the source node is allowed to set the priorities, but on the way the routers can change it. That is important, because if you are giving that permission to the source, then everyone is going to make their traffic as of higher priority. So that should not happen. So on the way, the routers are having privileges to edit the priority which you are setting. Okay. So therefore the destination, this is a very important point, the destination should not expect the same priority which was set by the source. Source may be setting one priority, but on the way the routers can change it. So there is a chance that the destination is getting a packet with a priority value that is different from what is set by the source. Okay, so that about the traffic class field. Now the next field, that is the last 20 bits field, that is a flow label. So that is, I already told you, we will discuss what is a flow here. So as of now, you can think it like this. So flow label is a 20-bit field. It's used by the source to label the packets belonging to the same flow in order to request special handling by intermediate IPv6 routers, such as non-default quality of service. So this is something I told you already. This is flow is something that is working in association with the QoS. I explained what is QoS and how flow is related, everything in detail in that part that you can refer. But for the time being, let me explain you what is a flow in a simple way. So it is just like this. So Suppose this is a sender machine and this is a receiver machine, and you know the communication is between two machines, but within the machine the actual communication is happening say between two processes. Okay, so communication is actually between two processes. And so what is a process? Say end point of communication, right? Or it could be viewed as a data structure which maintain all information related to this particular communication. Now for example, within your browser you may be running a particular so you are trying to access Gmail, and this could be the Gmail server, and this process is replying that mail related information to you, or you are accessing Google, and this Google server related with this, and this is the one who is replying. So now when you are looking for a web traffic, it will be replying with a web page. And you know, if it is a web page, there is a port concept of port 80 will be there. So like that communication, these details of port, everything we will see when we are discussing TCP. Now whenever such a communication, that means as part of a given application, the application can be it could be a say file transfer application, or it can be a web application handled by HTTP, or it can be a mail, or it can be some multimedia traffic. Okay. Or say audio video streaming, whatever it is, and that kind of a communication is happening between them. And so as part of a given application, the set of all packets which are getting generated, and that will be communicated between two machines, particularly between two processes, is what we call as a flow. So all the packets which are generated as part of a given application in a given communication is what we call as a flow. And for every packet which are part of the flow, we will be giving a flow label. Okay, and that flow label field will identify that all of them are part of this particular flow. And now you can give special treatment to this flow. That means on the way, whenever we have intermediate routers, you can make some reservation, okay, for the given flow. And for doing this reservation and all, we have something called RSVP, reservation protocol, and there's some other approaches also. This is one that we are using with integrated service architecture. So that is one way of providing QoS, and all those things are related with the QoS. So if you want to provide some QoS, that is quality of service, some QoS guarantees, like say less jitter, less delay, or less loss of data, like that. So if you want to provide some quality of service parameters, accordingly some reservation can be made, maybe by using a protocol like reservation protocol on the intermediate routers for a given flow. Okay, so that is where the idea of flow is coming. Now how you are going to identify a particular packet as part of a flow? So initially by running the RSVP protocol, you will reserve resources, and you will say that all these resources are reserved for this particular flow with a given label. And now that label field is this 20-bit field. Now every packet will be carrying that flow label. By looking at the flow label, the router will come there and it will understand that yes, it is part of this flow. Accordingly, it will give all the reservation that are made for the given flow. So that is the idea. Hope you get an overview about it. But for more details, you see this videos on QoS. Okay. Now a flow label field is used by the source to label the packets belonging to the same flow in order to request special handling by the intermediate routers, such as the non-default QoS, because it is not a default feature. So if you are providing QoS, that is something not a default one that is provided by the typical network. It is an additional feature. So if you want it, you have to identify them as part of a given flow, or simply it is requested by real-time applications. Now in order to distinguish the flow, the intermediate routers can use the source address, destination address and flow label together of the packet, because if you are looking at the flow label, for all packets a unique number can be assigned. So along with the flow label, you will take the source IP address and destination IP address, and you know the source IP address is going to be the 128 bits field, and the destination IP address is going to be another 128-bit field, and the flow label that is a 20-bit. Together is going to identify all packets as part of a given flow. Now, between a source and a destination, multiple flows may exist because many processes might be running at the same time. Okay, and so this is one flow I mentioned. Now, between the same end points, that is same two machines, we will be initiating some other communication also, right? Sorry, some delay here. Here there may be some other flow also. So that will be identified by, say, another label. So now the routers are the host that do not support the functionality of flow label field, and for default router handling it can be set to 0. That means all the routers are not going to support the concept of flow, reservation, everything. Accordingly you have to upgrade your router. Till that you can assume that the flow label is 0 because you are not going to give any special treatment for that field. So all the 20 bits can be set to 0 for the default routing which is not supporting any flow reservation, those things. Now while setting up a flow label, the source is also supposed to specify the lifetime of the flow. That is very important because you have to mention you started a flow, how long it is going to valid. Sometimes even though your means a particular flow initiated at some time, maybe due to some network delay something, it may be looped at the intermediate routers and it is not received at the receiver properly. So that time you have to mention, I already told you in the current scenario the lifetime is typically say 3 minutes or 180 seconds. This value may upgrade or change in the future also. This is somewhere I read like that because if you are sending some information say within 180 seconds of time, it is supposed to be delivered at the receiver. Means I am telling about a single packet, but when it comes to flow you will be knowing how long it is valid. Accordingly you have to mention the lifetime. This lifetime you may be informing to the intermediate routers maybe when you are running the RSVP protocol, because you are initializing some set of reservation for a given flow, and at the same time you can tell how long the flow is valid. Okay, and after that validity is over, simply if some packet is coming as part of the given flow with that given flow label, it can be ignored. Now the payload length field and the next header field. Payload length, this is something same as what we discussed in IPv4. It is a 16-bit field and C unsigned integer because it's a positive number only, right? That indicates the total size of the payload, which tells the router about information, about amount of information a particular packet contains in its payload. You know, whenever you are looking at a typical packet or any information, there will be some header followed by payload. So the information contained within it. So other than header we know the 40 byte fixed header in case of IPv6, followed by we have the payload. Now this is something important. The payload length field includes the extension headers also, because header, this is a main header. Now followed by main header we have the extension header. So payload here means it includes some extension headers also. Say these are all the extension header followed by the actual information. So together we call as a payload, and this length we will be noting down what is the length of this field that we will represent using 16 bits in the payload length field. And the upper layer packet, that means you know, within an IP packet what is the payload? That is the information given to the network layer by the transport layer. So this is the transport layer information, upper layer protocol. Typically, okay, that can be a TCP payload, or it can be a UDP payload, or sometimes it may be the network layer payload itself. Now, you know, using 16-bit, how many combinations are possible? Using 16-bit, you can have a 2 raised to 16 combination, right? That is 65,536. So that means you can have a IP packet with the payload size 0 byte to an IP packet with the payload size 535 byte, right? So that is what you can represent using 16-bit. Now Is it possible for it to support an IP packet with a size greater than this? If you are looking at IPv4, it is not possible. But in IPv6, it is possible. And how it is done? So in case the length of the payload is greater than the 65,535. So up to this you can represent using 16 bits. Okay. So now if it is greater than 65,535 bytes, the payload up to this can be represented by 16 bits. Then the payload length field will be set to 0 because the size is greater than 65,535. So using 16 bit I can't represent the size. So that field will be set to 0, and there is a concept called such a payload with size greater than 65,535 is called jumbo packets in case of IPv6. So this is a concept that is newly added in IPv6. They are ready to support packets with the size greater than 65,535 byte, and we call such special packets as jumbo packets. And for jumbo packet the size is greater than 65,535, and definitely we need more than 16 bits. So this field we will put all zeros in this field. Now the size of this jumbo frames will be represented in the option, that is we know in IPv6 the options are nothing but the extension headers, and we have an extension header called hop by hop extension header, and we will see the different extension header in subsequent slides. So hop by hop extension header is going to contain the size of jumbo packet. So jumbo packet is nothing but the IP packet with a size greater than 65,535 bytes. So definitely that value can be represented with some more than 16 bits. So this field will be 0, and especially its size will be represented in the hop by hop extension header. Hope it is clear. Now I already told you what is next header field. Next header, it is nothing but the same as the protocol field in IPv4. The next header indicates the if you are looking at IPv4, this next header field, because within an IPv4 packet followed by IPv4 header, we have the payload. And what is this payload in IPv4? That is some transport layer information. It can be a TCP payload or it can be a UDP payload in general. So in the next header field, or the in IPv4 it is protocol field, you will be representing the protocol number of TCP or UDP accordingly what kind of payload it is containing. Now if you are looking at an IPv6 header, instead of this, if you are looking at an IPv6 header, suppose it is an IPv6 packet. Now see, following this IPv6 we have extension headers, right? Now you are going to represent the protocol number of this extension header in the protocol or the next header field. So that is the main difference. If there are extension header, with what number you can distinguish the extension header. So just like the protocol number given for TCP, UDP, and you know, if it is a network layer information like ICMP, then the protocol number of ICMP will be stored here. It's similar to these protocols. We have a protocol number concept for the extension headers also. So what kind of extension header is immediately following my main header? What is its number? That will be represented in the next header field of the main header. Okay, so if you are looking at the main header, the next header field of main header will be contained in the protocol number of the extension header, which is immediately following. Now see, this extension header is also having this next header field. This extension header is also having it. So that will contain the protocol number of the extension header, which is following it further. Okay, now this particular extension header will be having a protocol number, next header field, that will contain the protocol number of the extension header following it, and at some point there will not be any extension header, right? And that time it will contain the protocol number of the payload, and that finally suppose only two extension headers are there, then the payload will be either TCP or UDP, or it can be network layer information, anything. What is the actual payload? Its protocol number will be stored in the next header field of the last extension header, Okay, so for the main header, it can be which is immediately following it. If the main header is immediately followed by an extension header, its number will be stored. If the main header is immediately followed by the actual payload, higher layer payload, its number will be stored. That's all. And this field is not only for the main header, it is there for extension headers also. So everybody will keep storing the number representing the next one. If it is a extension header, its number. Again, protocol, same protocol number concept we are using here also. If it is a normal TCP or UDP traffic, its number. So that is what is explained here. The next header indicates the type of extension header if present. Okay, if present, immediately following the IPv6 header. But if it is absent, it will be the number of TCP or UDP or the higher layer payload only. So whereas in some cases it indicates the protocol number of the information indicates the protocols contained within the upper layer, that is whether it is TCP or UDP. Okay, so hope it is clear. This is the field that is there in main header as well as extension headers. Whether it's main header or extension header, which is following it, its number will be stored here. Okay. Now for the last extension header, the next header field will be the protocol number of TCP or UDP, or it can be ICMP also if it is a network layer packet. Now hop limit and address fields, that is the last information we are having, and I already told you this hop limit is nothing but the TTL field which we already seen in IPv4. The maximum, and you know what time to leave to avoid the packet looping, right? Simply understand like this. This is for avoiding packet looping. The packet should not loop in the intermediate routers. So that is avoided by hop limit. So maximum number of intermediate nodes and IPv6 packet is allowed to travel to reach the destination that we can estimate, and with that value we will be setting it. Okay. Now its value gets decremented by 1 at each intermediate routers, and whenever it is reaching 0, it will be discarded. We already discussed it, like for example from the source, suppose the hop limit field or the TTL field is set to 8, that means after 8 number of hops it should reach the receiver. I am taking an example. Now at every intermediate router, this hop limit will be decremented by 1. Here it will be 7, again here it will be 6, and finally here it will be 5, like that it will go. Now suppose if there is any looping, like from here it is coming here, then this is going to, from 5 it is getting 6, again suppose it is coming back at this point, it will be 5, and again at this point it will be 4. Suppose it is coming back, here it will be 3, here it will be 2, again it is coming here, here it will be 1, now here it will be 0. So what does it mean? Some kind of loop is here in the intermediate routers. So whenever you are getting the value of hop limit field as 0, you are supposed to reach the receiver. In this case it is not reached. So it's an intermediate router is getting a packet with the hop limit. After decrementing it becomes 0. So definitely this packet will be discarded by the router, because it is simply creating a loop, and definitely it is not going to be reached at the receiver. So that is the idea. So discards the packet that is stuck in infinite loop because of some routing error. And source IP address I already told you, it is a 128 IPv6 address representing the original source, and destination IP address, this field indicates the IPv6 address of the final destination in most cases. All intermediate nodes can use this information to correctly route the data. So there are some exceptions also, okay, that we will see later. Okay, by this I am winding up this part of the presentation, and here we seen in detail the IPv6 protocol header. So just look at the RFC for more details about it, okay, a number I mentioned. Thank you.